Mr. Speaker,
just like you, the people
I have every intention to show you utmost respect and act according to your directives. But I'll do myself grave injustice if in rendering the apology, I do not point out certain matters that I also feel are important for you to advert your mind to. Mr. Speaker, in the first place, you set up a committee pursuant to Order 191. First legal question is, does that committee have the power to come to conclusions relating to matters of contempt? Does it have the power? You set it up to find facts and report the facts to you. Does it have the power to come to conclusions on matters of contempt which are clearly spelled out in Order 30, 31, and 32? Facts, not to conclude on contempt, because the issues of contempt are clearly defined in the standing orders. And so that is the first thing that I just wanted to advert your mind to, whether the committee can make findings and come to a conclusion that the provisions of contempt have been violated. That's the first question. Mr. Speaker, the second question is, they use criminal standards determining the burden of proof. Mr. Speaker, if you conclude that you want to use the criminal standard, then you might as well have, during the proceedings, use the criminal process. What is the criminal process? If you call a witness in any criminal trial, he should also cross-examine the other side, so that you can come to the conclusion that will enable you to exact criminal sanctions. You didn't do that. Mr. Speaker, if you say I should apologize, I apologize.
Yeah, that's a gentleman who sat to his right, he was describing, a member of parliament for South Dai, Honorable Roxin Nelson Dafeamekpor is joining us. He was in the chamber. He's going to tell us exactly how things went down yesterday evening. First of all, good morning to you.
Good morning, my dear, and good morning to your viewers. Let me take the opportunity to say hello to my constituents in South Dai, Peki, Kpali, Tongo, and Beve area. I say good morning.
So it is clear that the minority is divided. Leadership seem to have a different view with the backbenchers, if you like. What's happening with you guys?
It is not clear that we are divided.
It's not?
It is not.
And I'm taking that from Honorable Haruna Idrisu's statements and more of in support with the committee's findings, also in support of Honorable Ayariga apologizing.
You see, my leader's position yesterday, for me, could be premised on 1 Corinthians, I think 10:23 or so, that which is the effect. I cannot recite verbatim, but it is to the effect that all things are lawful unto me to do, but not all things are expedient. Do you understand me? Now,
so he didn't say what he said on the floor yesterday because of his personal convictions, but because it was expected of him to go along that line?
You see, when you are a leader, particularly when in the circumstances that we find ourselves and he finds himself, you may have issues, legitimate as they are, but at that material time, we're all seeking to build a consensus, and he made the point that this should be the break point when we break away from the past, it should be the beginning of new things. It should be a fresh start for everybody. He made that point, which supposes that he may personally have issues even with the process, but we should let bygones be bygones so that we chart a new course. And I'll tell you why. Honorable Ayariga raised very, very valid legal points. And as a lawyer, I can understand him. You see, Hansard is like the memory chip of Parliament. And by extension, the memory chip of this country. It is equivalent to law reports. And Hansard is it is the register of everything that happens in Parliament. It records everything. When you say in Parliament, it goes into the Hansard. If you smile, no, it cannot be covered. If you laugh, it is stated that laughter in the Hansard. So everything you see is very important. And I think Ayaga was of the view that, this is a report that seeks to indict me. So let me raise my points anyway. Let me register my reservations before it goes down into the records. And so he says, if pursuant to Order 191 of our standing orders, this committee has been established upon that. And the terms of reference are very, very clear. 3 things. And yet they went beyond to make a determination beyond the finding of fact. They went to make a determination.
Why, that one not expected? Wasn't that expected?
And for me, it ought not to have been so. And he legitimately raised the question that they went beyond their jurisdiction. They went beyond their bounds. It was supposed to be a committee that was supposed to be a fact-finding committee. So find the facts, submit it to the speaker. The speaker it will be tabled for plenary to debate. After the debate, the question will be put. So it was supposed to be plenary that will determine whether or not his actions or conduct or inactions were contemptuous of Parliament. And if it were, consequentially, what sanctions should apply. But he thought that procedure was not applied because of the nature of the report. However comprehensive it was, he thought that it was not within the purview of the committee to make a to even determine. You see, the committee said they applied 3 levels of assessing the evidence. Okay, first they applied the criminal standard, which is proved beyond reasonable doubt. Then say even if you apply that one, then as part of the prerequisites for determining that to be able to lay the probative value on the evidence before you, you ought to have allowed me to cross-examine. It didn't happen. Then they said they applied the civil standard, that is on the preponderance of probabilities. Even then, you ought to have also allowed me to cross-examine. It didn't happen. Then they said they applied the reasonable man standard, which is to the effect that the reasonable man walking across the streets of Kokomlemle or standing in front of Joy FM in Kokomlemle, if these matters were placed before him or her, what conclusions would the person come to? And say even there, the person will still expect to hear from me or for me to ask whoever is making the complaint questions. You see, so here too he had issues.
So why didn't leadership of the minority make these known? Because the Honorable Haruna Idrisu had the opportunity to also make the comment. If this was a position, if this was a position, if this was well thought at, if this was discussed, why didn't he also, make the same points known? Because after all, when leaders, speak, sometimes it carries exactly.
But Honorable Ayariga and by extension Honorable Kujeto and Honorable Suhini were the subjects of the investigation. All right, they petitioned, and so he made the point that when the matter first broke, and he was in the chamber, and he failed to rise on his feet to make a point, it was used against him. That even though the matter was raised in Parliament on the floor, he kept quiet.
Yeah.
So this time,
he said he needed to make some points. Prior to his apology, he needed to raise these issues.
Let's talk about the general mood
Yes.
on the floor yesterday. I was listening very much on radio. At some point, I was watching on television, but the greater part I was listening to it on radio. What was the mood in there?
The mood was, initially everybody was in a somber mood, and it became charged after he delivered his apology.
Was it an apology? Would you say that it was an apology?
I would say so, but I will explain why it generated the controversy. Because clearly in the report only said the honorable member should render an apology.
An unqualified.
Yes. It didn't specify the manner of the apology. This is where the controversy is. It didn't specify the manner of the apology, whether it should be written apology and read on the floor, or it should be delivered viva voce. Viva voce is you do it extempore.
Is that not what was expected? Because when they say rise and apologize.
No, we could have said, well, the report has been laid. Both leaders have spoken to it, and so we'll come back today. We could have done that yesterday. And indeed, if I were the speaker, that was what I would have done. Because then it will give everybody the opportunity to rethink the issues that were raised in the report. A lot of calls and consultations could have been done overnight concerning how the matter should really be concluded today. Now, that didn't happen. And so he was called upon to approach the bar and render the apology. But if you read the scheme, the very, very authoritative document on parliamentary procedure and law, we all thought that was, it's only non-members that do that. So that was brought to the attention of the speaker. And so he was made to remain where he was and deliver the apology. Then he raised the issues.
Yes, and then he concluded, Mr. Speaker, if you want me to apologize, I apologize.
So the majority clearly didn't. First, as he was raising the issues, then the temperature began to rise. So he dropped the issue 1, issue 2. So by the time he was done with issue 3, the temperature on the majority side has reached fever pitch.
Sorry.
And the minority side, it was like a deja vu. Everybody, it was like he opened our minds. You understand? They say, yes, these are really issues. Then he says, well, but there were a lot of people who were still whispering to him that, tone down, just do this.
Even from your side?
Yes. Tone down, let's just do this and let's move on. So he said, okay. If you say I should apologize, I apologize. Then the majority thought that the manner of the delivery of the apology amounted to no apology at all.
I heard Mr. Speaker was angry, visibly.
Oh, no, Mr. Speaker, you can hardly tell whether he's angry or not, because I've known him, even as a young practitioner.
So was he angry?
Very quiet. It's very difficult to tell.
But he was obviously not happy.
Well, you wouldn't be. If you were in his position, you wouldn't be.
So we saw you in that clip there when the scene was getting really chaotic, trying to stop it. Somebody wanted to fight someone?
Immediately after Speaker left the chamber, in the no man's land, some of my colleagues from the majority side, normally what we do is we interact, we shake hands. But this one, in the course of the interaction, it became heated debate.
No, this was no shaking hands interaction.
No, and I'm telling you, I'm placing it in context.
Okay.
That anytime the speaker rises and leaves the chamber, as members, we converge in the no man's land. And then we interact, we shake hands and all. But this one, it generated into heated debate amongst the members. And then some began to heckle. So I quickly, then I was telling my colleague Sam George that it was not necessary. Even if somebody provokes you, don't react. Because I was trying to tell him that there were about 15 cameras, zooming down on what was happening in the house. So you never know this day and age of social media. And lo and behold, look at where we are. So I was telling him that, let's go back to the offices and let's go and reventilate. Let's go and talk and experience catharsis. So that the matters will leave.
Who was he going to beat up?
Oh, no, it was just, it was words being thrown across.
Yeah, but people were threatening to push through and get to someone.
And the majority, there were about 4 or 5 of them. Because my back was towards them, I couldn't tell immediately. I was just trying to prevent them, to protect my brother, and whisk him away.
Amazing.
But eventually, you see the Honorable Anda prevailed upon him. And
took him away.
They're
very good friends.
Yes, and so, and that was what happened.
But Parliament shocked us yesterday with this scene, because we've seen it happen elsewhere.
In other parliaments.
Exactly, where chairs are thrown and things like that.
So it tells you, it tells you, in fact, but we teetered on the brink. We went to the edge, the closest. You understand?
Yeah.
I suspect, but for the cameras yesterday, and it's an awakening. It's a wake-up call that when it comes to emotions, we all can lose it.
Yeah.
We all can lose it. However lofty, high up you are in society, when the emotions take over, and the emotions are as a result of sectionalism, factionalism, we take entrenched positions, you can see that we can all lose it. Because I thought that particularly the lawyers on the side of the majority, when the report was presented, I thought it was a fantastic report, even as a lawyer. So this one, Honorable Ayaga should apologize, and then life goes on. And when he raised the issues, then quickly the law in me sprang up. And so yes, he's right. Then I quickly referred to 191. Then I realized it was supposed to be a fact finding. So clearly, he had the point. But like I said, like I quoted 1 Corinthians, everything may be lawful unto you to do, but in the circumstances it may not be expedient.
Yeah.
You understand me?
So Parliament resumes at 10 a.m.?
Yeah, it's this morning. From here,
are you going with the same temperatures as yesterday?
Nature has a way of reinventing you overnight.
Yeah. But the Minority Caucus, have you met? Was there a discussion last night? Do you know how your procedure today?
Yes, we met yesterday. I'm sure we'll meet again this morning. And I suspect leadership are already meeting. After we met, they had a long meeting yesterday. And I understand they're already in a meeting. And cool heads will prevail this morning.
All right. We wish you well. Thank you for the insight. Hopefully we can meet again on Monday.
I agree.
Because things will go down today.
Yes,
Thank you so much. That's the Member of Parliament for South Dai, the Honourable Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor. When we come back, it is time to break open our Susu box. We've been saving since January. We'll see what we can do with what we've been able to gather in our box. That's up next here on the AM Show.